Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the PSGL GT League Tier 1 on a Tuesday night. This is Season 1. We're going for the penultimate round of the championship, and we're about to head out onto track. I've just been informed, so we are heading out to the Nurburgring Gr.3 circuit, which should be an awful lot of fun, but the guys will have their hands full tonight because we have the minor issue of a wet weather race and qualifying session, at least for the first half. And there you can see the difficulty that Petty is already experiencing out on track and heading through turn 3 out of the Mercedes Arena section of the track. In terms of the championship, Pashi leads for the distinct team, but only by 2 points on 45 points. H Racing Green is in second for Invicta on 43, with 3 podiums to his name. Then comes Hasnain for the Asahi Kasei team on 37 points. Then the 2 Slag Brothers Racing teammates, Brownski first on 34, and Petty himself, who we ride with right now, on 26. Then comes Jamie for CRG on 24, Fred Dude on 18, and followed by we've got YRS, Bonnie, Toby, Juposkar, Iqbal, Mr. Slowly, Philip Walters, Geordie, and bring up the rear Yashit, who has yet to score. So we're just checking out the outlap here on the car, on the Slag Brothers car of Petty, and it's Slag Brothers who lead the championship on 60 points from Invicta Racing Team on 52, then Distinct, then comes Asahi Kasei and CRG, the top 5. So a really thrilling evening of racing ahead of us out here. I'm fully expecting to see plenty of mistakes and snap oversteer moments as the drivers get in on terms with this very, very difficult track, somewhat unfamiliar track as well for many of them. And this is the Vidal chicane. This is subject to a steward's briefing warning here, and he needs to get himself sorted before the final corner and get good traction on the way out of this, the Coca-Cola curve. Remember, we just have 8 minutes of qualifying followed by a 1 hour long race, and sheer driving pleasure. They are going to drive past the sign, it says, from the BMW gantry over the start finish line, and that is massively difficult. Aquaplaning on the front, on the main straight, and we try to get the car break down into the Castrol corner, the hairpin where the water, I'm sure, will collect, and then we go through turns 2. Normally this is a really straightforward corner, but you can see the tiptoeing that that Petty is having to do here. Turn 3 is a 180 degree left-hander before then switching back for turn 4, which is subject again to another warning about going too far off track. You can go 1 car width past the white line there on exit, but no further, and the game should penalise you all the same. This is turn 6 before you have the turn 7 Ford curve, which is highly banked and with a long, smooth apex rising up onto the crest. Ride that outside curb if you dare, avoiding these puddles as best as possible before another almost just over 180 degree corner, the Dunlop turn 8. Very, very similar in profile to the Ford curve. Very typical of a German racing circuit. Long, looping, late apex corner. And then we go up towards the Michael Schumacher S, turns 9 and 10. Not the chicane that Michael Schumacher himself designed. That is the Vidal chicane at the end of the circuit. Many eyebrows were raised at the time. The current driver was able to design a corner just to suit himself. Come Ho is the turn 11, named after the tyre manufacturer, of course. And then we go into turn 12, the bit curve. Waiting for that, again, late apex for a good launch away from the turn, and then the longest full throttle section of the track incorporates a very difficult right-hander in these conditions before braking for that Vidal chicane uphill. So usually you'd wait a little bit longer to brake with these heavy cars. Clonks into the bollard, which doesn't go flying, ghosted straight through us. Again, then trying to get through this Coca-Cola curve with 1 smooth depression of the throttle. What will Petty have here? I've got no idea on reference points because this is a complete journey into the unknown today. 2:23 is Petty's first lap. Let's see how the other drivers are doing. H Racing Green currently on circuit then. And will he beat Petty's first lap? He does by 1.4 seconds, gets the first fast time on the board, a 1.4 second improvement there for H Racing Green, and a 2:20.0. Who else have we got? Let's look at H Racing Green's main rival here for the championship. It is Pashi, and Pashi has got P4 on his first lap, somewhat surprisingly there. We've got Iqbal on a lap at the moment, Iqbal from Malaysia. And hello to Captain, who joins us on stream. If you want to shout out, do say hello, tell us who you're here to support, and you're very welcome with us. We had fantastic evenings racing last week, and there's Iqbal just slowing to get out of the way of everybody else. This is Bransky in the Slag Brothers racing car. And we're just watching and waiting to see how the car is going to handle through turn 7, the Ford curve here. My name is Webbo, by the way, and you can find links to follow both Premier Sim Gaming League and myself in the live chat at the top of the screen. Very, very gentle. The track almost looking dry to my eye at least, heading out of the Dunlop curve, turn 8. This is the Schumacher S, and you can see the very neat surface. There's a car directly behind Bransky on track at the moment. He's only put in a very slow lap through Kumho then and into bit curve. 2 attempts to reach the apex, but fairly smoothly on the throttle. That's a purple second sector for Bransky. Just this flat out section and then the Vidal chicane before braking for the final corner. Pretty late on the brakes, very confident that the grip won't run out on him. Perhaps a little bit too much curb there, the car waiting to settle down into Coca-Cola then, the final corner, turn 16. Good on throttle, this car, certainly today. Seems to have got a map of Fiji on the on the dashboard, and that is a P7 time. So that final sector not quite where he'd want it to be. What about Toby then? Toby for the line, and he gets P5 with a personal best, a 1.4 second drop. But it is Pashi who's gone straight to the top on his second lap. Pashi up there onto the pole position. H Racing Green still following that CRG car of Jamie in the Portal 2 reminiscent livery. And there, CRG Jamie making a mistake. That looks to be the end of our qualifying session. I'm going to need to quickly exit and go back in. And here we go then. Pashi on the outside. YRS got the inside line in the Mercedes. Then comes Fred Dude and Jamie, who binned it on that that final lap. Here come the lights then. We're all set to go racing around Nurburgring. It's 5 lights on. It's dropped the clutch. And go, 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 gingerly away. YRS got the first launch and then had to duck out of the throttle as the wheel spin took effect. He's got the inside line heading on into the first braking zone. Who brakes latest? Pashi looks well under control from the outside there as the car's slowly but surely tiptoeing their way around. And it's absolutely gorgeous, it looks, with the headlights and the spray kicked up by the other cars. YRS just trying to hold off the advances of Jamie on the outside through turn 3, but it is Pashi who gets ahead with H Racing Green and Jamie competing into that turn 4. Very difficult, very unsighted with the amount of spray on the cars coming back from the rear of the cars, but it is YRS then well away, holding on to second place, but Pashi is in the front, leading the championship with 2 races to go, including this one, and leading the race as well. Just sort out the screen. Why it doesn't hold, I just don't know. Here we go then. P4's H Racing Green looking very lively on the back of Jamie's. It's the Chevy, isn't it, on Jamie's car? But also looking aggressive is the Lexus of Hasnain, the Asahi Kasei car. Very smart livery on that one. As then we've got Toby in the yellow and blue. And down, going for the move into the Kumho curve goes Hasnain, straight past H Racing Green. So it's now Pashi, YRS, Jamie and Hasnain, your top four, getting a bit sideways on the way through the latter part of that corner. Looking up at the front, we have got a challenge potentially going on. Jamie on YRS as they head towards the Vidal chicane, squirreling around under the brakes. The driver's just trying to adjust the car. H Racing Green getting up the inside of Hasnain, possibly. Certainly on the inside line. Hasnain really struggling on the way out of the Vidal chicane, and H Racing Green gets his fourth place back. Further back, we've got a move from the Subaru of Petty, using the door handles and wheel arches of that Supra to elbow his way into the front. Somewhat not paying too much heed to the fact that this is an hours-long race. And Alex Withington said, yeah, this is Gran Turismo 7, Alex, and it's looking amazing tonight in the mist and fog and spray here at the Nurburgring Grand Prix circuit. I'm glad that we're doing the Grand Prix circuit, because I can't imagine trying to do the corner names for the Green Hell. Pashi ahead of YRS, Jamie and H Racing Green. Hasnain getting ahead, because there goes H Racing Green slipping down the order. That's the first major mistake we've seen tonight, and he's down into 10th place now at least. But that is the car of Fred Dude, who started in 3rd place. He's moved back down to 7th, but there's a lot of racing left to run here. Intermediate tyres on the car, of course. The hard and the medium tyres are in play tonight. They are not permitted to use the softs. But they're certainly not worrying about dry tyres at the moment. We will have to wait and see what the rest of the race brings us. This is only lap 2 of 28, and there goes Toby, holding off Petty into that tricky Dunlop curve. Multiple lines available through there. Looks like Toby's found a good one, and away they go then, down towards the Schumacher S. It's usually taken virtually flat out, maybe the slightest of lifts through there if you've got your downforce set nicely. So we have YRS just 0.8 of a second now behind Pashi, and we've got Jamie similarly a similar gap behind him in 3rd place. But it's all going on a little bit further back there. Hasnain now looking in the mirrors to Toby, to Petty and Fred Dude, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th, all in a line with one another. A little look perhaps from the Subaru of Petty. This is the Vidal chicane. Petty, another look towards the Coca-Cola turn, and this is where he got passed and elbowed out the way in the previous lap. He does that with a lot more control though, and secures 5th place for now. Toby also now looking in his mirrors at Fred Dube, who had a better run through that final corner. Down they go then. It's very difficult to break in on any line on the circuit, let alone in this this single dry line that will appear. I don't think it has appeared yet for the drivers. A lot of talk in the pre-game chat here about how the line into turn 1 is the AI line, which is very different to the natural racing line by many of the drivers' choice, that seems to dry out despite no AI driving on it. I'm not quite sure how they tested that, presumably open lobbies or practice lobbies there. Iqbal in 8th, Bransky in 9th, H Racing Green recovered to 10th, and Geordie is in 11th place. But at the front, it is now down to under half a second between Pashi and YRS. YRS has got some good pace here on the car at the moment. Of course, fuel is still going to play into the drivers' calculations here tonight, and the varying performance of the fuel consumption between the different cars. What's going on here? Because it looks like Hasnain going around the outside of Petty for 4th place, and starting to look at the back of Jamie as well. up at the front. YRS starting to make a nuisance of himself in the mirrors, needs to make sure that he's focusing on his braking points. It'd be so easy to nerf the leader off, and that would not be a popular move at all. Well, maybe it would be popular among his other drivers, particularly H Racing Green, who's stuck down in 10th at the moment. That's the fastest second sector for YRS, and he is absolutely on the move. You've got to wonder whether Pasci, for the sake of his championship, would do better to let YRS past here as they go side by side, wheel to wheel, into the chicane, hopping over the curb. Two very different lines leading through there, and now towards the Coca-Cola curve, turn 16. YRS, the bulk of his attack has dropped back. He's now in the clutches of Jamie, who will get a good run down the hill, but the Mercedes is strong in a straight line, very strong against the Chevy, and you'd have to expect the Mercedes to be braking a little bit better than the Chevy as well. So round the hairpin we go for the fourth time. Pasci still on top, and a little bit further back now. YRS this time got a little bit close, and the top four starting to spread out from the rest of the field, at least from the following 5 cars. Toby is in 5th place, leading that pack from Fred Dude Iqbal, and then Racing Green up to 8th place, gaining 2 places on that previous lap, and starting to get a lot more comfortable in the car now. There is a purple sector for Toby, who's turning up the wick, enjoying some relatively clear air in front of him until he collects the spray from the car in front. If he does manage to stretch away and get on terms with those top 4, who are currently Pasci, YRS, CRG, Jamie and Hasnain. Welcome if you are just joining us. This is the penultimate round of our inaugural season of GT racing here on PSGL. Pasci leads the championship, but only by 2 points from H Racing Green, and there's a lot left to go in this race, as you can see. Here comes the Supra of Iqbal, trying to get a nose ahead enough on Fred Dude's Mazda RX Vision, but we need to give each other a little bit more racing room. There is the championship contender, the challenger currently, H Racing Green in P8, and looking at the inside of the Supra once again, who is doing his level best to stay ahead. Looks to be a bit of lag on one of these machines. H Racing Green will suffer a little bit of contact from Petty, and he gives it back. Petty spins, and H Racing Green, well, you'd have to say at first glance that kind of looked like just desserts for Petty, from the small amount that we got to see of it. Let's go back up towards the front as the drivers are braking for the very difficult hairpin. I'm still waiting for a driver to completely spin out of this one. The brake discs are super hot going down into the hairpin, of course, but so far so good. Everybody surviving to this stage. Still have all the drivers on the circuit, of course. Very difficult to get terminal damage apart from some sort of disconnection, but Pasci really starting to stretch that gap now. There is a purple sector for the Lexus driven by Hasnain in the Asahi Kasei car. Second, third and fourth racing dangerously close to one another in these conditions, but don't want to let Pasci get away at the front. Let's have a quick look at, oh, Toby off into the gravel. Toby off into the gravel, losing places, and that is another big error that we've seen. He's going to try and hold on to 6th or 7th next to the Supra, but he doesn't really want to get him involved in this kind of battle. H Racing Green, and there's down in 8th place, so H Racing Green up another place then into 7th place now, who himself made a mistake earlier on, but is hanging on. And in different parts of the circuit, the rain is either teaming it down or starting to spot and spit, so it's very difficult for the drivers to judge quite what the circuit will be like. It's just corner to corner, that's all they can do. How's the front battle looking at the moment? It's the Mercedes driven by YRS, who is looking very very aggressive. He gets a little nudge in the rear. Hasnain gets a little bit of oversteer as well in so doing. And they're both just, I don't think there was any malice in either of those moves. It's just the lack of grip on the circuit. And it doesn't appear to be getting any better for anybody. We're only expecting a potential change of conditions at about the halfway point. But it should be full wet for the duration. I'm wondering why the drivers haven't chosen the full wet tyre tonight. And there is the Supra, possibly off the track, definitely off the track, and trying to recover. Will he make it? He just about gets the car back under control before the barrier comes to greet him. And there we have it, through the cone, back onto the circuit after the first turn hairpin. And that was probably the first major hairpin issue. I'll never forget that Grand Prix where it was raining like this and all the cars just collected in the gravel. Nobody could avoid the aquaplaning. It is a treacherous circuit. So back up at the front, Pasci up ahead by 2 seconds now from Jamie, who has 3/4 of a tank of fuel. Pasci just less than the same amount, yeah, similar on YRS. Marius says he feels like he's watching DTM. It does have that feel, doesn't it? It really does. Beautiful circuit, beautifully rendered rain effects with the headlights, the reflections, everything looks brilliant. And this is only on a PS4, so I'm sure it's looking an awful lot better and or scarier from the driver's perspective if they're on PS5. But Pasci in front, Jamie, YRS, Hasnain, Fred Dude, Toby, Petty, Brownski, your top 8 on lap 28. A little negative message there about Iqbal and his connection tonight. We've got a few drivers with problematic connection. In fact, I think Iqbal has just left the race. So generous and sporting of him to do so. So the gap just dropping by half a second there at the front. I'm not quite sure if Pasci had a problem or Jamie's just getting faster. We'll watch and see. Let's have a look at the lap time difference. That was a 2.8 from Jamie and a 2.12, then a 2.20. It's getting slower for the drivers, but it was a 2.23 for Pasci. So I think the rain is getting worse for the drivers. The conditions seemingly getting more and more challenging. Yeah, everyone has gone from the 8s to the 13s to the plus 20 in the lap times. It's very, very hard for everybody. There's another mistake from Toby. He's held it on the circuit, but only just, and that should mean, why is H Racing Green not further up? I wonder if there's another story playing out there with the second Mercedes tonight. Lap 7 complete, so 1/4 distance. The drivers are going to be aching for this to reach the halfway point, but we don't even know for sure that the weather will change. We just know that it's possible it might change at the halfway point. So they'll be desperate to try and get this set of inters, this stint on the fuel around, and it shouldn't be a problem. They're using a lot less fuel in the rain, of course, because they are able to put the throttle down so much later and braking earlier as well, braking more often indeed. So H Racing Green some distance off the back of Toby, who himself we saw having an issue on the previous trip through the first corner hairpin. Brownski down in 9th. I don't think he'd be expecting to be down there. This is Jordi, who's been having some lag problems, certainly from my perspective anyway. But Pasci up at the front. Remember, we're down to 11 now. Pasci up at the front by 1.2 seconds is all. A 2.23 his previous lap. So Jamie is definitely able to handle these conditions that little bit better than the leader, Pasci. He's also very fat with fuel as well. But the intermediates holding on very well. Remember, over a quarter distance passed already, and those tyres barely used. You can see possibly a hint of a dry line, a drier line, one just with less puddles, fewer puddles for the drivers, but whether that translates on track, it's another matter. The pressure really starting to show on Pasci here, whose gap is getting back towards the 1 second mark now. There is that turn 4. You are allowed to run wide on the exit of turn 4, but not more than a car's width. So you can't be caught out abusing that, or reported abusing that, of course. So Jamie now definitely under a second behind Pasci Supra. He racing for the distinct team, of course. Marius says yes. Marius asks, is there any possibility the weather will change? Yes, there is definitely a possibility. We are expecting rain for the first half, and then we have no idea. It is random conditions after the first half of the race. So it's a matter of survival, a matter of patience, and steering clear of mistakes for the first half of this race, and then we will wait and see whether it just becomes lighter rain or it goes full dry. We have no real knowledge. It's just a random situation, as I mentioned. So yes, we are definitely expecting some possible change in conditions to spice things up towards the end of this race, certainly the latter half. Looked like a little bit of understeer happening on Jamie's car there on the Corvette, but he gathered it together quite neatly. Not an ideal lap. Now everybody had a really poor lap 6, but it seems to all have got better. So we just had a really bad spell with the weather, a bad shower maybe on that lap 6. That is what everybody has had problems with. Well, Maris, I'm glad that's makes you happy, because we'll give that feedback to the race directors. I'm sure they'll appreciate that. So every reason to keep watching with us. Make sure, of course, that you've subscribed to the channel. I'm sure most of you have already, and we'd really appreciate a like on the video and a follow on socials. But a like on the video would be an ideal way to say thank you. Here comes the Slag Brothers Subaru of Petty, shaping for a move on the back of Hasnain's Asahi Kessi car. Sorry, no, Fred Dude's Mazda. I was getting my teams mixed up there for a moment. Very distinctive engine sound on the RX Vision. Much more high-pitched. And surely it's about time that Petty has a go here into one of these big braking zones. You just sense he's getting ready, just getting a feel now for where he's quicker on the circuit as he drags the brake, tries to control the car, leans on the front axle, tries to get the nose ahead. That was a little bit too much. That was too close going through the Vidal chicane, sorry, the bit curve. And we go up the hill then towards the Vidal chicane. Hard on the brakes, but not too hard. The Subaru, the Mazda, all kinds of wrong, but the Subaru just couldn't manage to get around the chicane in an ideal way. So looking for a good exit here, tucked right underneath the rear wing. Keep the guy in front of you guessing which way you're going to go, but the Mazda just stretches away from the Subaru down this straight. Subaru be looking for better braking performance, but they're holding each other up. Glowing front axle disc brakes on the Mazda in the wet weather. Oh, here we go. Surely it's now, is it? A little bump and run possibly from the Subaru. That looked clumsier than I'm sure he was intending. He was going for a clean move clearly, but unfortunately a little connection difference between the two drivers meant that he ended up nerfing the Mazda, so there may be a little complaint about that one, or maybe the Mazda will decide to exact his own revenge on track, or maybe just give out pure forgiveness. Of course, that is definitely an option available to the drivers. Still under a second, this battle at the front of the track. Just wanted to check in with it, make sure that we were going okay. Brownski joins us in the live chat to say he's going hard. Tyres, surely not already, Brownski, surely. But yeah, you'll be wanting to one-stop this if at all possible. So hards would be the safest bet to run the second half, but it looks way too early for dry tyres at this stage. He's got his sunglasses on, he says as well, Brownski, in the chat. It's definitely not sunglass weather. There is a purple middle sector for Jamie. He's got just that shade of pace better than Pasci, but Pasci has got the fastest lap by a 10th. So they are bringing out the best out of each other, this top two. Just wanted to check out where Jamie is on the championship standings at the moment. Jamie currently in 6th place with just 24 points, around half the points of Pasci. And into the pits comes Hasnain, H Racing green already, despite the spray coming off the back of the cars and the fact that they've still got half a tank of fuel. Is that what Brownski's decided to do as well? Let's see. Brownski has confirmed gone onto hard tyres. He's on slick tyres with this amount of spray, so clearly he's feeling on the car as if he can do better. We've got medium tyres going on Geordie's car, that's a big sorry, intermediates on Geordie's car. I'm sure I just saw someone select medium tyres in the pits, so pit stops happening already. That looked like Hasnain having a problem, and he's on the racing medium tyres and struggling to get them warmed up. So Hasnain, really, this might be a bit early for him. But here comes Toby. Toby on the intermediates. Much better grip here than Fred in the Mazda. Toby to the outside, down into Dunlop. Didn't really want that little touch going through the corner, not giving each other enough racing room. Definitely, I think that was the Mazda who could have given more room. Looks to get up the inside, and Toby leaves a big gap at the apex. Doesn't really want to play with that anymore. Doesn't need any contact around this circuit. Let's go up to the front and see if Pasci and Jamie are thinking about a pit stop from the lead as well. In we go to the Vidal chicane. They'll peel right before Coca-Cola if they are coming into the pits. Quite easy to hit the bollard in between the pit wall and the racetrack. There's Jamie in the pits and YRS, both coming in, both feeling like this is a good time. But Petty, despite the fact that his teammate has been in the pits, Petty stays out on the intermediate tyres. So really interesting to see YRS and Jamie into the pits already, giving up that track position. And we'll see, there goes Toby in the pits. We'll see if Hasnain's been able to do enough on the dry tyres to catch the leaders. I think he has. I think this might be a good moment here. This is medium tyres on Hasnain. He's got half a tank of fuel left on the car. So will that get him to the end as well? It's on the cusp of a bit of a gamble there, but he does leapfrog everybody in the pits. So it's still the two leaders who have yet to pit. Pasci from Petty, the two Hungarians in the field, who are most shyest from the pit lane, I should say, most reluctant to pit. This is Hasnain, who had a fantastic outlap at 2:05. He put in on the new dry tyres. He's definitely shaking around a bit. That could be partly down to lag. So a 2:05 as compares to usually a 2:08 for the rest of the drivers who were doing their laps on the wet tyre, on the intermediate tyre. So Jamie out in the pits on hard tyres. That's the safer bet, and he's put a full tank of fuel on the car as well to do the remaining 16 laps of this race. Remember, over half distance. So cars like Hasnain, who have not got more than half a tank of fuel, definitely got to wonder whether they're going to be in a good place. Does look like the guys are able to put in quicker times on slick tyres than they were before their pit stops. Let's just see then. Paggi and Petty both coming into the pits, I suspect, but they won't know quite what pace the other drivers are doing. They're too far back, but I think Hasnain's going to have the lead of this race pretty convincingly. He's approaching the Vidal chicane now. The drivers, of course, have a long pit stop for fuel. About 1/3 full is the tanks on Paggi and Petty, and they'll need to get the car fueled to the end of the race. They've done plenty of practice. They know what their fuel consumption will do, but it doesn't preclude making a mistake or clicking a button too early, which is absolutely possible. And it is Hasnain who leads this race for the first time on lap 13 as the track dries out. Toby passes the leaders, the erstwhile leaders at least. So does Jamie, who put in a 2:46. That the previous lap on his out lap, now a 2:09. So far from the kind of pace other drivers been able to do on the soft on the dry tyres. The Subaru getting lots of penalty holdbacks going, and so did Paggi, the leader, who has now got a +3 second. YRS got past Paggi with a shorter pit stop. He's gone slightly less than a full tank. Paggi has gone for full beans on the fuel, but I think he's crossed that white line on pit exit and picked up a +3 second penalty, just losing adhesion on the circuit. I doubt it was deliberate or an attempt to cheat. It was just simply the way it goes. But that penalty is taken, if I'm not mistaken, it is taken down the start-finish straight, so he will have 3 seconds of no power unless he can lift and coast on the way towards the corners or mid of the straights. The distinct racing team driving Paggi, who leads the championship, down in 5th place, and H Racing Green starting to close up now. He's in 6th, and remember, only 2 points back in the championship. So we almost start again, really, with the racing form here. This is a completely different experience for the drivers. New tyres, a drying track, it seems, with Hasnain up in the front. So there goes. We're going to get the slowdown point. No, it's not where I thought it was. It is down the straight between the bit curve and the Vidal. So he's going to pull aside and make sure anybody coming up behind him won't crash into the back. But it looks like H Racing Green a little bit too far behind to really take advantage. But he'll certainly close up to the championship leading Paggi. YRS is in front though, as is Jamie, but right up at the front is Hasnain in P1. Some 15 seconds, very brave to make that pit stop the earliest. He was the first front runner to pit, but he has gained hugely, a 15-second lead, plus then the 6-second lead that Toby's got over P3. That early brave decision has made life much easier for Hasnain, but I don't know that he's got the fuel to get to the end of this race. He's still got half a race to do. He is in a Lexus, but I don't think it's that miraculous. He'd need a hybrid to get this car to the end of the track, at the end of the race tonight on the amount of fuel. So he's going for a quick stint here, a medium, maybe a medium double stint here, and he's stretching away from second place Toby on the mediums as well, who again has underfueled the car deliberately. So Jamie should be fueled to the end, should have tyres to the end of the race as well. This section of the track, this kind of southeast section of the track where the turn 8 Dunlop is virtually bone dry, but in other parts of the circuit the spray being kicked off is immense and really difficult to manage. There is Paggi in 4th, YRS some 5 seconds away, sorry, H Racing Green some 5 seconds away from, no, YRS has had a problem and has ended up slipping back between Paggi and H Racing Green, who also now has Fred Dude right behind him. H Racing Green trying to get back on terms with his championship rival Paggi, but he's 2 places in front. Geordie apologising for something. I don't know if it was Geordie that hit, that caused YRS's issue. I think they were too far away on circuit to make that problem. But H Racing Green, again, fueled and tired to the finish. Fred Dude on mediums and should be quicker at this stage, like the two guys in the lead of this race currently. It is Hasnain, Toby, Jamie, Pazzi, YRS, H Racing Green, Fred, Bransky, Geordie, the 9 drivers, and H Racing Green round again, unfortunately, from the Vidal chicane with boiling hot tyres. They'll cool off in the mud there, but he needs to get that car wrestled back under control. Unfortunately, for a tight championship, that is bad news for us as neutrals in the chat, on the race, I should say. Petty down in 10th as well. Not a great one for the Slag Brothers racing team so far tonight. Hasnain continues to lead, and look at the gap. He's going 5 seconds faster over the last 2 laps than anybody else. Down in the 2-minute mark now, Hasnain. And yeah, 5 seconds a lap faster. That means Jamie is now overtaking Toby. Jamie is on the still on intermediate. No, Toby's still on intermediate tyres. Excuse me. That's why Hasnain is stretching away. Toby, I think, is trying to get to a point of this race where he can run mediums to the end and be fueled to the end. But these are hard tyres on Jamie's car. He's got some clear air in front of him. He's only 1 or 2 seconds a lap slower than Hasnain at this stage. And it's really working out well. How is Toby still driving intermediate tyres? I do not know. I saw the M and I thought that meant medium, but it is intermediates that he's on. And much slower. He's down in the 2-minute 5s. The majority of the rest of the field in the low in the 2-minute mark or thereabouts. Fred Dude has got ahead of Pazzi. And Pazzi not quite unlocking the speed yet on the hard tyres, so Hasnain on those mediums is going so much quicker. You've got to say he's going to buy himself a pit stop pretty soon. So he crosses the start-finish line around now, does Hasnain. And here are the 2nd, 3rd and 4th drivers. There's a pit stop going on for Toby. He's putting something on. Let's wait and see. He'll try and fuel the car full. Will he go for medium tyres, as I suspect is his intention? Try and pit late and pit once and still be quick at the end, but it is a bit of a gamble because other drivers have been going so much quicker at this stage. This is your championship leader. This is Pazzi in 4th. YRS could try and do the favours for his teammate here and limit Pazzi's progression through the race. Still no news on the pit stop tyre choice for Toby. Let's see. What has Toby gone for? It's hard tyres. It's hard tyres and a 3/4 tank of fuel. So he's not going for quick tyres through this one. Bransky's in the pits as well, it seems, at this stage. So an 11-second gap for H Racing Green to his teammate YRS. Some distance still to run of this race. 12 laps to go. I hope you're all enjoying this one. I certainly am. Hasnain on his own in the lead, 24 seconds ahead of Jamie, who has a 22-second gap to Fred. So the front two have checked out of this racetrack. I think that Hasnain is in a super strong position here, even given the fact that he has to pit again. Of course, he'll only need a splash and dash and the tyre change to make sure. But he can know exactly how much fuel he needs to use because he's on the same tyre condition now. Personal best time here for Pazzi through that sector, for sector 2. Starting to really monster those curbs in the Supra, almost too much through the second part of the Vidal. I always think you want to monster the first part of a chicane and treat the second part gently so you get the exit, but I'm only a commentator, definitely not a racer. There is CRG, just starting to explore the limits of the marbles. There's some rain falling through the Mercedes arena, turns 2, 3 and 4. Certainly still. So it's not all plain sailing to the end of this one, and it's certainly not bone dry on the circuit. Fred Dude really having a good spell of pace here. 3 laps consecutively, very, very quick indeed. But look at the rain coming out of turn 4 and 5. Really is raining pretty hard, and this will absolutely mess everybody's strategy up if it starts to rain worse. Let's go up towards the other part of the circuit and see how the rain is falling. Not visibly any different. Once the cars get away from that southeast corner, should be raining reasonably heavily, roughly where Jamie is right now, because that's almost exactly the same position of turns 2, 3 and 4, geographically speaking anyway. Hasnain has dipped under the 2-minute mark with a 1:59.6 and has a 22-second lead still. Using up those mediums, he's got a few laps left of fuel in the car, but if the weather is going to change for the worse, he's really going to have to gamble on his next pit stop when he runs out of fuel. It's just so inconsistent, the weather pattern. This is where I was seeing a lot of rain on the previous lap. It's almost all gone again. I think it's just really patchy, really difficult to tell what's happening with the drivers. This is Jamie, 22 seconds nearly off the lead, but 23 seconds in front of third place, very much on his own. Let's go and have a look where the cars are fairly close together, shall we? Battle for third and fourth between Fred and YRS is, as you can see on screen, 1.8 seconds. We've got Pashi, who is definitely falling into the clutches of H Racing Green, who just a few laps ago had an 11-second gap to catch YRS. So Pashi must have made another mistake. I wish we'd have caught it. But H Racing Green now just 1.3 seconds off his championship leader, who only leads the championship by 2 points. It will mean, of course, that we go to the final race with it all to play for next week, so don't miss it. Make sure you've got the notification bell on your subscription for PSGL, and make sure that you tune in next Tuesday night, same time. You may be accustomed to joining races on the hour, but this group do start around 10 to the hour to start qualifying and get the full race in. It's lap 18, so 10 to go now, and there's definitely rain falling at this point on the circuit. I hate to just bang on about the weather, but I am an Englishman. It is in my genes. I have to talk about weather, right? There's nothing else to talk about. This is H Racing Green. He's under a second behind his championship rival. That's why I'm focusing on this battle prominently at this stage of the race. Hard tyres, remember, fuel to the finish, as is Pashi, so a very fair, clean fight. Maybe a tiny bit less fuel in the Mercedes, but only be a question of a tenth or two per lap advantage, because of the I believe the Supra's fuel efficiency is not so good. They are racing equalised performance cars, and you can see there the lap 17 for H Racing Green was a step worse. It was definitely raining in lap 19, I think. I think that time got deleted, but lap 19 was really bad, and it was appalling for Pashi. He dropped 14 seconds on lap 17, unfortunately. But it has meant that we've got a tasty battle developing here, so we'll forgive him for that. Still Hasnain leads the race from Jamie and Fred Dude. This now is YRS on the back of Fred, and I can still see rain falling. It's a very, very murky day, and I think the drivers are going to have another difficult lap on lap 19. Look at the amount of spray building up again on the car, and it is absolutely chucking it down in that southeast corner of the circuit. Turn 8 once again. Well, the drivers now start thinking about wet tyres again. Here comes the championship battle It is H Racing Green just ahead of Pasci, who goes very wide. They both go wide, not anticipating the change in grip levels. I would have thought Geordie Boy is spinning. The weather is getting worse and worse. Everybody making mistakes. Let's focus on the two championship contenders here. Maybe there'll be a third championship contender by the end of the race. Pasci trying to get restarted. So is H Racing Green. Fred Dude and YRS battle. Fred Dude coming off worse that time with a flash of the headlights. I don't think he's very happy about that move. And the cars are really struggling. This is a massive change in the conditions. Does anybody decide to head for the pits, I wonder? Hasnain, I think, has already passed the pit lane. So is Jamie. They're that far ahead of everybody. But Hasnain, will he get the car stopped nicely? Jamie is going into the hairpin backwards at the bottom of the hill. Everyone's got to take care going down that hill unless they can get into the pits. Is that the decision here? I think it might be. I think YRS is trying to waddle his way into the pits. We may be looking at full wet conditions towards the end of this race. Fantastic drama with less than 10 laps to go. It is Hasnain from Jamie. If they can manage to complete this lap, that is a yellow flag. That is a full course yellow. Overtaking is prohibited at this part of the circuit. Sorry, not a full course yellow, but Hasnain, he's going to see his lead absolutely wiped out here. Let's see what Fred, YRS, what about H Racing Green? Does he pit now? He can barely get the car. Look at the speed he is having to go. He's got a 28-second gap to his championship rival if he can get into the pit lane. So very difficult. So very difficult. But into the pits he has managed to come. Pasci, a little bit quicker on the way out of Vidal. Who else is struggling around this racetrack? Let's see what Hasnain is up to. We had a brief dry spell in the race, but now it is anybody's guess. How much time are the two leaders going to lose on these medium tyres before they can get into the pits? Brilliant drama for this. Whoa, sneaking down and to, I think, unlap himself comes Brownski, who I think has probably, he's gone on to intermediate tyres, so he's suddenly much quicker than everybody else and the race is coming back to him. Pasci is in the pits. H Racing Green has left the pits on intermediate tyres. Nobody yet going on to the full wet. A 3-second penalty on YRS's car. And they're still waiting to pit the front two. Still on those racing medium tyres. Only just making it round. Look, he's losing so much time this lap. Massive delta. There is the Subaru off the circuit. And Hasnain getting into the pit lane very cautiously. He had a massive lead. A lot of that will be cut now that the drivers are able to navigate this circuit on intermediate tyres behind him. It is the accident of timing for the leaders when the rain really fell. Now, it would be terrible, wouldn't it, if it suddenly dried up again and they're all on intermediate tyres. There's still 8 laps to go. Is that Jamie giving up the pit lane? It is. He's still on hard tyres and he's not coming in for intermediates. In though does come the leader of the race, Hasnain. That could be a big error for Jamie, who we'll see what his gap is. It's a 3:13. The drivers are going 1/3 slower than they did on the previous lap, and surely that's an entire pit stop of difference. There's YRS in 3rd. Wow. Massive sideways. I bet they were breathing sighs of relief that they didn't have to race in the rain anymore. And all of a sudden, they're back at it. Well, they can't say they haven't had practice in the wet conditions, but some of these conditions have been absolutely diabolical. That was a 3:25 lap 19 for H Racing Green. That was a really slow one. What about Pasci? That was a 3:44. Pasci really struggling on that changing condition lap. H Racing Green starting to pick up the pace again now, and we'll see what kind of lap time he's got. His first clear intermediate lap time this time out. 2:18 was his lap. and just about finding somewhere to break into the hairpin. I will just watch these guys coming down into the hairpin because, well, entertainment value, frankly. Let's see, can Pasci get the car stopped? He goes for a wide entry, very early apex, just, yeah, really slowed the car down, and he got a 2:17 that lap, so 1 second slower, faster than H Racing Green. Hasnain, what is his gap now? It's down to 8 seconds from YRS, who is doing battle and succeeding in battle against Jamie, whose intermediates are still coming in to operating temperature. Jamie was flying in the dry. In the wet, it's a different story. It's YRS who's got his tyres up to temperature, and he's going to try and run the end of this race on that one set of tyres and about just over half a tank of fuel, which seems a lot for 7 laps. But maybe not. Maybe we've still got 1/4 of this race to run. Remember, it's Hasnain, YRS, and Jamie. I don't know if the guys doing the race length calculation considered the fact that some of those laps would be so much slower in the changeable conditions. Got a yellow flag for Jamie for a potential accident. You can see Brownski's Supra having, sorry, not Brownski's Supra, that's Geordie's Supra, having problems on that lap as the tiptoeing past comes Jamie, but right behind is Fred. Jamie cannot get the car launched out of the final corner. A little bit better for Fred Dude. And a drag race cleanly past Jamie, who cannot get the power down in the Chevrolet. Can they all navigate this hairpin safely? You can see 9th place Supra possibly looking to unlap himself. How's Hasnain's gap now? It is 7 seconds to YRS, who has a 17-second lead over Fred Dude. Let's go back and look at our championship contenders. 12 seconds away from Jamie is H Racing Green in 5th place, and that could really help his championship standings. If he can just stay ahead of Pasci, that has got to be target number 1 for H Racing Green. Maybe the only target tonight is get on terms with Pasci in the championship. Finishing ahead in the higher end of the points, we'll see him leapfrog Pasci and have the tiniest margin of advantage in the final race next week and decide who will be the first PSGL GT champion. There will only ever be one first, so the guys are obviously very, very keen to make sure it's them. And there goes there goes the Supra once again, really struggling to get the car stopped into the wettest part of the circuit, the Dunlop turn 8. And now suddenly H Racing Green with a little bit of pace. He's able to get on board with Jamie, who just is having a nightmare of a few laps here, trying to. He's still on hard tyres. It just seems to be completely the wrong tyre for Jamie. He's betting, I think, on the weather drying up, but he's so much slower than everybody else. Surely it's not the right gamble at this stage. So H Racing Green has now got 2 places clear of his championship rival Pasci, which is a great place for him to be. He's got his teammate in front of him in 2nd place, but the problem is he's got Fred Dude in between them. So if they were going to be playing teammate games of swapping over, it's a difficult one to manage with Fred Dude. We've got a busy section of the racetrack here as Pasci starts to approach the hard tyre shod Jamie, who again refuses the pit lane. He's also now about to go past the Supra of Geordie. Supra late on the brakes again and slip sliding his way to the outer limits of the circuit. Apart from this battle right now, We are not seeing any drivers close on the circuit. We seem to be having very strange light conditions in turn 5. Almost a sunset, I guess. I'll check in with the leaders once again. As soon as Pasci navigates, Jamie will go through the order for you. Obviously, if you've got eyes, you can see it, but we'll see about whereabouts they are on the track and their gaps very soon. So Pasci might have a look onto the inside of turn 8, but it's wet on the inside line. Tries to claim the racing line, does so, and he can just get the car stopped so much quicker and accelerated so much quicker than these hard tyres in the wet. So there we've got Bransky just navigating turn 2. Petty is being given a blue flag to let that looks like H Racing Green's Mercedes by, and he does so before he gets a penalty. Then we've got Geordie in 9th, the rearmost driver at the moment, and he's just approaching Cumho curve turn 11, and up at the front it's a 7.7 second lead for, wow, Hasnain. It won't be 7.7 seconds for very long, as getting turn 2 and 3 wrong, and YRS on the hunt here. I think he fancies this race win tonight with 4 laps to go. I think he fancies it. There is YRS, 22 seconds ahead of the guy in front. Pit stop in hand at this stage of the race from Fred Dude in 3rd. And then it's all about H Racing Green versus Distinct's Paggi. That's Distinct, the team name, Paggi, the driver name. There is only one Distinct racer at this stage of the championship, certainly the last race and this one. There's only one in the team at this point, but Paggi leads the championship by 2 points prior to this race. H Racing Green just full focus on staying on track and perhaps just staying ahead of his main rival. And there we're back with Paggi again then, 10 seconds away from second place championship contender H Racing Green. 4 laps to go. Will this racetrack have another surprise in store for us, as the intermediate tyres are the right tyre to be on now, but it's been a while since it last rained. It really has, so there won't need to be any fuel. It would be a tyre only stop, I think, for the drivers. So will we see another sting in this race? Sting in the tail at the Nurburgring. A blue flag on the car there for the Slag Racing brothers Bransky. Slag Brothers Racing, sorry, I'm getting that the wrong way around. So named after the Wacky Races drivers, the Slag Brothers. Somewhat problematically named for an international cartoon. I don't think Slag was quite what they meant in colloquial English. Anyway, we'll forgive them, it was a different time. Jamie in P6 still trying to make the hard tyres work. I mean, if he's betting on the other drivers having to pit again, I'm pretty sure they could pit again and he won't get in front of them, because they'll only be pitting for tyres. So this might be just a long, miserable race to the bottom for Jamie after showing so well earlier on. He really had monstrous pace, but it has disappeared, abandoned him. We're still, where are we? On the Hasnain's car, we're in the 2-minute 6, and he was doing 2-minute 1 or 2-minute flats on the dry tyres. So I would have thought we're not far away from dry tyres being the way to go. It's just whether it's worth it at the end of this race, and I don't think he'll give up a 7-second lead to change tyres with a few laps to go. Time will tell. 3 laps to go now. Hayden says Jamie's in pause mode. No, he's on dry tyres in the wet. Hayden, unfortunately for Jamie, he has trying to ride this race out on dry tyres. That's why his pace has dropped off so dramatically. I think even his AI car would have pitted for dry tyres, for intermediate tyres at this stage. It's clearly still very, very wet on the circuit. Fred Dude showing very well, was a little bit off the pace at the start of the race, but has really picked it up in the second half. It's just done a 2:08 versus the car behind's 2:06. That kind of pace delta, H Racing Green might fancy a look at the podium, which would really help, obviously, in his championship battle with Pasci. But catching is one thing, passing is quite another. Still taking a lot of that second apex from the Vidal chicane through into the Coca-Cola curve. Late apex, of course, because we're in Germany. And Hasnain leads then with 2 to go. No gaps on the short gaps on the circuit between cars, but of course the potential for making errors still very, very possible here. 2:05 for H Racing Green that lap. That was a strong lap for H Racing Green. We're not going to see a new fastest lap, I don't think, because we've had the driest of the conditions. That was a 2:05 for Hasnain as well. So it looks like the track definitely improving, but not enough, I don't think, to risk putting or to spend the time to put dry tyres on now. And I don't think it's dry enough, early enough for Jamie, who is still some distance down. He's now got a 35-second gap to the car in front and a 30-second gap to the car behind. So that's there you see, racing hard tyres, barely used on Jamie's car. And as Hayden says, track is drying up, everyone getting faster. Indeed. Hasnain, though, lost a bit of time to YRS. That was a poorer lap. YRS, I'm not quite seeing where that lap difference was, but he's certainly picking up the pace now. I think it was all in this lap. And yeah, you can see just how much closer YRS has got this lap. So lap 27 of 28. One complete lap to go after this one. It's under 6 seconds now, that gap. And how is H Racing Green doing? Well, he's 8.6 seconds away from Fred, and Pasci is catching. He will definitely hope that that 8 seconds is enough to hang on to this place ahead of his rival. With 2 laps to go. Fred Dude showing incredibly well tonight. Fred came into this in P7 in the championship, and Hasnain in P3. Now he is on 37, and a win here with his rivals not doing so well, we could have ourselves a 3-way battle for the final, for the championship come the end of this season, which is next week. We could end up with 3 drivers within a shout of the championship and becoming that all-important very first PSGL GT champion. So I will give proper due to Hasnain, who could end up being just as much a championship contender as H Racing Green and Pasci. He's about to start his final lap, still gathering the car together, still constant adjustments, not able to really push in this one, and that is confirmation. Final lap has begun with just enough fuel to go on the car for Hasnain. He's managed that fuel load really well. H Racing Green's gap to Pasci, 8 seconds now, so that is all important. Jamie is still driving the hard tyres, and on lap 26, sorry, he finally went faster than the guys on intermediate tyres. Too little, too late, you'd have to say, with a 35-second gap to the car in front, but it was certainly a brave old gamble from Jamie. but he doubled down on it far too many times, I think. Bransky, Petty, Geordie Boy, I don't think will finish the race distance. We've got Hasnain's fuel light flashing a warning, but he won't worry too much about that. Through the Dunlop, turn 8, gathering the back end of the car on throttle as well. This is the Michael Schumacher S of turns 9 and 10. Hayden speculates there that Jamie would have fared better on mediums. It's a possibility, but I think it was just always the wrong tyre in the conditions. Hasnain then through the bit curve, turn 12. It's full throttle now until the Vidal chicane, as the car is pointing to the sky. He'll be feeling every minor clunk and click of the car, but I think he's home and dry. This is Hasnain. Puts a little slide on it for us and comes towards the final corner. A masterful display of strategy and metronomic pace driving from Hasnain. Gives us a wiggle, gives us a light flash, and he wins in the Nurburgring. A fantastic performance from Hasnain. Congratulations to him. Puts himself in the championship battle for the end of the race, for the end of the championship here and the end of the season next week. YRS secures second place as well. Good points for the team. And we've got Fred Dude, who will be able to hold on to the final place on the podium. Bransky, of course, has been lapped, so he's already crossed the line. So we'll just see these 6 go over. There goes Fred to cross the line then to finish, and he gets that podium. I'm sure very happy with the podium will be Fred. H Racing Green, I think he'll be happy to have survived and stayed ahead of Pashy. So we will have 3 drivers compete for our title next week, and it will be Hasnain, H Racing Green and Pashy, possibly even in that order. Jamie with a 2:09 the previous lap, so he didn't manage to build on the pace of lap 26. Jamie will be the last one to cross the line. It's a gorgeous car. It just would have looked a lot better with intermediates on for the bulk of the second half of this race. Jamie goes across the line then, secures 6th place, beating out Bransky, Petty, Geordie Boy, but the winner is Hasnain, who showed some fantastic pace on medium tyres and on the intermediates. Had a brilliant stint there in the middle on the medium tyres and just extended. He was super brave to pit first for dry tyres and then used the intermediates really early as well. So gambling well and bravely completing the race. Great stuff to see from Hasnain. Hope you've enjoyed the coverage tonight. I've really enjoyed being with you, and I'm hoping that we'll see you all and all your friends next week for the final of our inaugural GT season. Our thanks to you from everyone at PSGL and from the GT League. Myself, Webbo Red 5, thank you very much, and we will all catch you on the next race day.